Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgier kind of content, hit that like and subscribe button, especially if you haven't already. Big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for everything you do for the channel. That is monumental to us. Thank you. Thank you. And a big thank you to our good friends at Dice Legion. If you need any ttrpg stuff, any IRL, accessories, dice bags, check them out. Use the promo code SINISTER, get 10% off. Their link is also in the description. All that out of the way, we're going to talk about this week's subject, the Goliath. The Goliath comes to us from the Elemental Evil Player's Guide and then was reprinted in Monsters of the Multiverse. The most popular version of a Goliath is Grog, Strongjaw from Critical Role and the Legend of Vox Machina. A lot of people have fallen head over heels for this character, and there's a great reason why. It's played fantastically. He's got a lot of layers to him. It's not just a simple bash kind of a character, even though that's really kind of who he is. You get a lot of joy out of seeing that character and all their actions and everything they get into and the storyline with them. It's fantastic. And we'll get into why some of those things kind of work out when we start talking a little bit about their lore. So the Goliath, they are a mountainous people. They are big, they are athletic, they are aggressive, and they are competitive. That's kind of their big strengths all rolled into one. They are that big, tough, leading kind of character. They do share this great unity in having their group, their tribe, and it means so much to them. But a big part of why they end up becoming adventurers is because they get banished from the tribe, and that's a really great hook to add into your character. Because yeah, even Grog did it. You have a strong bond with your tribe, and it's super important, because the most important thing you can do is bring honor to your tribe. Like, they're very competitive in that aspect and very dedicated to each other. But if you break the rules, you get excommunicated, which is devastating to you as a Goliath. So it's a great lead-in to being anything you want, because you can be that courageous kind of a character and then get kicked back and realize you've lost everything for a mistake that you've made, and you need to make a living somehow, in some way. And how and why you get removed is crucial to your character, because it's a great way to set up their motivations, their reasoning, or maybe they hope to redeem themselves and get back to their tribe. All of that is very important to the Goliath. So really try and bake that into your character and understand those concepts are like almost really integral to who they are. You know, you lose a great opportunity to need to prove something, or need to correct a wrong, or maybe what happened that got you excommunicated is tied to the story, and you need to pull that together and accomplish that before you can go back and try and make amends to your tribe. So as for Goliath in the Elemental Evils Player's Guide, they want you to take a 2 to strength, 1 to con. Obviously, in Monsters of the Multiverse, you can put your ability scores wherever you see fit. Pretty basic. They lean very hard towards being very physically athletic, so strength and con are very important, and that con kind of needs to go up anyway, and it's part of something else that's in their kit. Your other basic abilities are pretty straightforward. You're medium size, you're humanoid, and you have 30 walking speed. You do not have dark vision, so be prepared to overcome that. Little Giant. You have proficiency in the athletic skill, and you count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. This is kind of a sentiment towards your connection with giants. Goliaths really believe they're very closely pulled into being like giants. In their mind, once you pass Furbolg, you kind of go to Goliath. That is something that's inherent to them. Again, they live on mountains, they live on huge areas, they see a lot of giants normally, and they see themselves as giant folk. Also, they're considerably larger than everything else, but you know, it does give you that athletic skill, which is inherent to who you are. And you do like giants and dwarves. Those are kind of your species that you get along with the best, so it kind of fits really well. Mountain born. You have resistance to cold damage. You also naturally acclimate to high altitudes, even if you've never been to one. This includes elevations above 20,000 feet. The way I understand the high altitude is in areas where there's very small amounts of actual breathable air. Things where it's very difficult to sustain yourself. Their normal living climate is very harsh. So it kind of fits into that kind of gambit, which is why they kind of lean a lot towards being athletic and being aggressive, because food is scarce. And if you're not actively, violently going after it, you might not survive. You need to be athletic because those conditions are harsh. And if you are not constantly training yourself to be basically a superhero, you will not survive. Or worse, you'll be a problem for the tribe. And that can be a big issue, and that can get you excommunicated. So, being acclimated to 20,000 feet and above, I don't know if there's actually any kind of mechanic. I don't recall anything about that. But in an area where air is thin, it's very difficult to breathe, Goliath won't have an issue. That's kind of what their gambit is. And resistance to cold damage is just great. You start out with a resistance. You don't get hit with a lot of cold damage, but if you're fighting something that does it, you're going to be very, very happy that you have resistance. Stone's Endurance. You can supernaturally draw on unyielding stone to shrug off harm. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to roll a d12, add your constitution modifier to the number rolled, and reduce the damage by that total. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. This is the ability for Goliaths. You get hit, you shrug off damage. This is fantastic in the example of Grog's Strongjaw. When you get hit while you are raging, if it's piercing, slashing, bludgeoning, or maybe you went totem bard and it's everything that's not psychic, you then get to roll this afterwards and reduce that damage by a flat number. This would go in after resistance hits because you kind of have to take the damage in order to be able to reduce it. So it kind of greatly diminishes the attack damage you'll take. At early levels, it will just flat out negate damage you would be taking, and being able to use it a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier means you get a bunch of them throughout the day. 3 a day is pretty good, and then you get them continuously as you get all the way up to 6 at high levels if you end up that high. Because this has to do with your constitution modifier, you're going to want to bump that up. You want to make this work towards your advantage. Like the Rune Knight fighter is kind of really built for Goliaths. Storyline wise, it makes sense. Also, because all the DC saves have to do with your constitution modifier. There's a couple of subclasses that have it. The Barbarian has some stuff like that. The fighter has some stuff like that. Between those two of them is kind of where you sit, most likely as a Goliath. And it's a great, great way to lean into either one. That Stone Endurance works on everything, and your constitution modifier should be something in great consideration as a Goliath, and lore-wise, that is wildly important. The ability to survive the elements, the ability to stand out and face starvation and continue to hunt, fighting exhaustion. Those things are what a Goliath does every day. So you really want to pump that constitution. That is very, very valuable to you. And if you can make something that complements that, you're going to see this Goliath go further than any other build. And that's kind of really what they're built for. They're built to get up there and get into the fray and do all wild combat-like athletic things. Our final thoughts on the Goliath. The species gives you this opportunity because it's a necessity of that species for you to be an adventurer that you have to be removed from the tribe. And it gives you this opportunity to create a wonderful story built into the lore. You have this great need to be the strongest, the most important, the hero, no matter what, because that's what Goliaths do. And it's integral, and no matter what you do, whether you're good or evil, you can always use that drive to be better for your advantage. It gives you this opportunity to cement yourself as to what your reasonings are being an explanation of your personality. Maybe you were too vicious. Maybe you were violent and dangerous, and your reckless actions caused danger for the tribe. And when you tried to take it over, you lost. And they threw you out for it. And now you resent the tribe. And maybe you want to get bigger and stronger and one day go back to that mountain and eviscerate them. Maybe you failed. Maybe you genuinely tried to do the right thing and you failed and they just couldn't take it. Maybe you broke a leg and you were too much of a risk for them to carry you around, so they had to let you go. Those are all things that can really happen in Goliath world. So like, injuries are very, very important. That's why they have Stone's Endurance, so they can power through that stuff. But using your failure to be a crutch for your character to evolve into something is a great opportunity, storytelling wise, and for reasoning to go out on an adventure. Maybe you failed and you were never meant to be a Goliath, but you were meant to find your own tribe. And when you find your party, that's your tribe, or whatever town that you save, or whatever happens, that's your tribe now. And taking ownership of that and the leadership of it really, really gives you this chance to be important, to care, to be tied to the story. And when you get that tied and in depth into the story, everything is more meaningful. And that's really what you want. You want something that keeps you heavily invested in what's going on, and not too invested in what you are, because that's what helps the story evolve and your character grow with the story. And that creates those cathartic moments when you get those moments that happen that maybe they reflect your backstory, and or those moments that reflect a situation. Maybe you get an opportunity to save somebody and you failed the last time, and that's why you got it removed from the tribe, but you succeeded this time, and you get to have that moment. And that's really what having a great tie-in to the lore of a species gives you. And the Goliath are a really great example of a really simple idea that can be just layered and layered and layered and brought into a whole bunch of different avenues of like awesome creativity. That being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. So if you've made it this far, definitely hit those like and subscribe buttons. It means a lot to us when you hit that subscribe button. It really does. It helps the channel so much. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It means everything to us. If you need dice accessory, any ttrpg stuff for real life games, check out our good friends at Dice Legion. Use the promo code SINISTER. Get 10% off. You can use that code 1,000,000 times. Keep doing it. And all being said and done, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.